If you've lived with MS for years, there's part of your story you were never told. Your nervous system was adapting to stress long before MS ever had a name. And if it's learned, it can unlearn them too.
That's the key. A nervous system shaped by stress isn't broken, it's trained. And trained patterns can shift.
Before any of that, my childhood living with hemiparesis was already shaping the way my nervous system developed. It wasn't dramatic. It was just my life, the way I knew it. But it taught my body to work harder, to compensate, to stay alert in ways other kids never had to. Looking back now, it was the perfect breeding ground heading into adulthood.
Here's the truth most people never hear. MS doesn't begin with symptoms. It begins with a nervous system trained by years of invisible stress.
Looking back now, it was the perfect breeding ground heading into adulthood. When I got to college, I walked straight into a life my nervous system wasn't built for. Just a couple months after starting school, Garrett, my roommate, found an unlit cigarette in his mother's car, and we decided to smoke it. It felt harmless in the moment, but looking back now, that single choice opened a door my nervous system was never prepared for. Smoking, drinking, skipping classes, and I had no idea how much those choices were shaping my biology.
Nicotine hits the stress system hard. It spikes cortisol and pushes the body into constant alert. Over time, that becomes the new baseline.
And alcohol added another layer. It disrupts immune signaling and blocks deep sleep. Both make the brain more reactive. I don't blame who I was, but I understand him now. He was adapting without knowing it.
That adaptation matters. Chronic stress reshapes the HPA axis, the system that controls your stress hormones. The HPA axis is a three-part network: the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. Together, they decide how your body responds to stress. They regulate cortisol, inflammation, energy levels, and even how well you recover from daily wear and tear. Under normal conditions, the HPA axis rises during stress and then settles back down. But chronic stress changes that rhythm. The system stops cycling. It starts flattening. Cortisol becomes less precise, less responsive, and more constant. And when the HPA axis stays stuck in that state, repair slows, inflammation rises, and the nervous system becomes easier to overwhelm. Once it shifts, everything downstream shifts too.
I had the genetics for MS, and somewhere along the line, I picked up EVV. But stress, that was part no one explained.
EBV is required for MS, but it doesn't determine timing. Stress fills that gap. It primes microglia, the brain's immune cells, to become more reactive.
And that reactivity became the terrain MS uses. Most people think MS comes from a weak immune system, but it's the exact opposite of that. It's an immune system that's too reactive, too alert, too ready to launch a response even when it shouldn't.
And this is where some people misunderstand MS. The immune system isn't weak, it's miscalibrated. It's like the sensitivity dial is turned up too high. It responds the way it should during real danger, but it also reacts when there's no threat at all. not because it's broken, but because years of stress chemistry taught it to stay on guard. A system that was designed to protect you ends up overprotecting, and that overprotection becomes confusion. That confusion becomes inflammation. And that inflammation becomes the groundwork MS builds on, not overnight, over years. Stress doesn't cause MS, but it chooses where MS takes hold. It shapes the vulnerabilities.
Looking back, I can see the signs. They weren't dramatic, just daily.
And here's what matters. If stress can teach the brain threat, safety can teach it repair.
This is just the beginning. Because once the nervous system learns stress, it starts building around it. That's where we go next.
Before we go there, there's one more piece to understand. The nervous system doesn't just react to stress, it organizes itself around it. It changes how you perceive the world.
That was me. Even on days I felt fine. There was a hum underneath everything. Like my body was waiting for something.
That hum is sympathetic tone, a constant low-level survival signal. It changes how the brain prioritizes information.
I didn't know cigarettes could do that. Or alcohol. Or late nights. I thought I was just living.
Most people do. The biology is invisible until it isn't. When sympathetic tone stays elevated for years, the brain stops returning to baseline. It forgets what calm is supposed to feel like.
And once calm feels unfamiliar, stress feels normal. That's the part that scares me looking back. How easy it was to drift into it.
And that drift matters for MS, because a brain living in threat has a harder time repairing myelin. OPCs, the cells that rebuild myelin, don't mature well under stress chemistry.
So even before MS started, my ability to repair was already getting weaker.
Not because you failed, but because the environment taught your biology how to cope.
Cigarettes, alcohol, EBV, genetics, stress, it all fits perfectly now. It's part of the story no neurologist ever told me.
Most people never hear it. But once you understand the terrain MS arrived in, you can understand how to reshape it.
And that's where the hope is. If your brain can be shaped by stress, of all things, it can be reshaped by safety, by routine, by repetition, by repair.
Exactly. This isn't about rewinding time. It's about rewriting patterns. Patterns your brain is still capable of changing.
So, what happens next? The part of the story where stress didn't just shape me, it built me.
And that's where we go in the next video. Not everyone who develops MS smoked. Not everyone drank. But everyone with MS had a nervous system shaped by something. Stress isn't one storyline, it's a spectrum.
Exactly. Some people lived through loss, deep emotional loss. Some grew up under pressure, family, relationships. Some carried perfectionism to the extreme. Some just didn't feel safe. My version just happened to involve cigarettes and alcohol. But the biology underneath is all the same.
Because the real driver isn't the cigarette, it's the chemistry. Nicotine is just one way to activate the sympathetic system. So is chronic worry. So is overthinking. So is always trying to keep the peace. So is never feeling good enough.
Stress doesn't have to look dramatic. Sometimes it's the quietest years that change you the most.
Biologically, chronic stress does three major things. First, It flattens cortisol rhythms. Your stress hormones stop following a healthy rise and fall. Your body stays in a narrow, wired zone.
That was me for years. Always tense, always thinking, always bracing.
Second, it shifts microglia into a primed state. Primed microglia respond faster, stronger, and more aggressively. They're helpful during real emergencies, but harmful when that state becomes the default.
So, even before MS, my brain's immune system was already jumpy.
Exactly. And third, chronic stress slows OPC maturation. OPCs are the cells that become oligodendrocytes, the cells that build myelin. Under chronic stress chemistry, they pause, they hesitate, they don't finish the job.
Which means every tiny bit of damage weren't getting fully repaired.
Right. Not enough to feel sick, not enough to cause symptoms, but enough to slowly weaken resilience.
So, whether it's cigarettes or anxiety or perfectionism or pressure from family, we all end up with a nervous system carrying more than it should handle.
And the nervous system compensates. It builds shortcuts, patterns, habits of survival. Those patterns become the blueprint MS walks into.
That blueprint was all ready for me before symptoms, before the MRI, before I even knew the word demyelination.
And that's why understanding the early biology matters, because the same pathways stress strengthens are the ones you later rebuilt, not by force, but by reshaping the chemistry.
That's what recovery felt like. Not a miracle. Just a slow reversal of stress patterns I didn't know were there in the first place.
And that's the story we're about to tell. How the stress that shaped you became the stress that built you.
That's the doorway into the next video, where everything stress once built finally gets rebuilt in the opposite direction. But all of that was a direct response to the stress I lived in. The stress MS laid on me. I had a choice then, and I chose to fight back. And over the years, as I kept pushing, kept lifting, kept showing up, the stress started to fade. Not because MS got easier, but because I got stronger.
And that's why this chapter closes here. Because everything we've covered, the stress, the chemistry, the early patterns, they all lead directly into the next part of the story. The part where stress stops shaping Steve from the outside and starts shaping him from the inside. Where identity, pressure, expectation, and emotion collide. Where the nervous system doesn't just react, it transforms.
So, when I see you then,